3.
What the hell happened to the Diablo community I used to know? Where's the vitriol? Where's the end of the series rants? This could have been the worst trolled game of our lives, but you're gonna go and just let it be the best game there ever was. Oh, we're afraid to talk bad about the game now. We all love Diablo. Well, that's just fine with me. I never took any of that trolling business anyways. So you know what? Malthael, he's a dead man. Diablo, dead. Mephisto, dead. Baal, dead. They're all dead.
Very nice. Very nice.
Man. It sounds familiar, but I don't know the reference.
Animal House?
Animal House.
Yes! Google skills for the win.
This actually it's a little bit flipped. It's a little bit flipped. Turned into something positive. It's supposed to be something negative. But yeah.
Alright, yeah, I was furiously typing away everything you said on Google, and finally I got it.
Fun fact, that movie is based on the college that I went to.
Oh.
Amherst College.
It was pretty accurate to your college experience then?
Well, I've never seen it, so...
Oh, okay.
I'm going to say yes.
John Belushi was running around in a toga and...
Toga.
That's pretty much it. Okay.
Pretty much.
Sounds about what I experienced. Yeah.
Very nice. Well, speaking of experiences, I think maybe Leviathan should start off our week in gaming section, because you had a pretty exciting start of seasons.
Oh, yes.
I actually want to stop right there real quick and change up the format of the show a little.
Oh, record scratch.
Because we, this is one of those ones where we don't actually have a lot of news to talk about, because the news is season started.
Yeah.
And the majority of everything is going to be this week in gaming. So let's at least cover the news first, so we can get that short little bit out of the way, and then we have all the time in the world until I fall asleep at the keyboard to talk about our experiences this past weekend.
All right, yeah. Start us off.
All right. Well, I guess probably the big thing that we just want to jump right into is a last-minute addition, and that is some hot fixes that just went live about an hour ago.
Ooh, that's hot.
Yeah.
Ooh, ow.
Yeah. Just like them, putting out fixes right before our show starts.
Yep. The hot fixes that just went live today is they have significantly increased the drop rate for bounty-specific legendaries. And Wyatt Chang is now currently doing like a Twitter storm on the interwebs, going and talking about how he highly recommends farming bounties on at least Torment 2, because your chance is just significantly higher. Significantly. So yeah, if you're playing on seasons, or even if you're not playing on seasons, go at it. Crank Act 1 up to Torment 2 or higher if you can. Go and do some bounties and collect your Ring of Royal Grandeur that you've been running for countless hours for, which we will talk about in a little bit.
Yeah, you don't get many pro tips from the devs.
That's true. They're very guarded with their secrets.
Yeah.
They don't like to talk, but now they're coming out. They also have increased the amount of blood shards that drop in Greater Rifts. So that way it will also scale with the tier of the Greater Rift. So the higher you get, the more blood shards you get. So it's no more, well, I just completed, tier 15 and got 20, and I just completed tier 27 and got 40. So it should hopefully go up a little bit better as your levels increase.
I think that was a pretty necessary change, because I know a lot of people on my friends list were just slow rolling the rifts, trying to let the timer run out. I had my brother and friend would just clear the rift really quickly and then do bounties as the timer ran out, and then go back to the Greater Rift and finish it.
That sounds awfully familiar, doesn't it, Steven?
Oh, you guys do the same thing? Way too early at the slow roll right now, I think.
Yep. And also on the realm of Greater Rifts, or just Rifts in general, the cesspools level is now going to spawn less. So you're not going to see it as often when you're running Rifts. And it also should now have fewer enemies that are spawned immediately at the zone-in.
Nice. Thank God. That's
Yeah.
a
Or
major
actually, sorry, I read that wrong. It's the cesspools will no longer spawn at all in Greater Rifts.
Whoa.
Wow.
Yeah. I guess there was some sort of bug that they were having, or maybe it was because of that issue with the enemies spawning right at the beginning that was just too much. Because I do notice that the cesspools, I guess, well, it's hard to say because the times that we've run it, or we've run into it, it either was like completely empty or the docks were packed with bears and horses. So,
True.
I gotta say, I'm glad that there's not gonna be enemies near the front because I played. Luckily, I was on normal, but the loading screen took so long that by the time I actually loaded the rift, my Templar had almost killed a bunch of enemies that had just been beaten on me during the loading screen.
Oh,
wow.
Jesus.
Yeah, could have died if I was on T1 or something.
Yeah,
Yep.
very true.
And the final two hotfixes that we've got is, let's see. Actually, no, there's a third one. There's an upcoming hotfix. But the other ones that have gone live is they've upped the drop rate of Key of Trials. So now if you've not yet found one, you should have a greater chance. But still remember, they haven't. In order to get a Key of Trials, you have to be farming a Rift in at least Torment 1 in order for it to drop. So if you're going through and farming normal Rifts, wondering where's all my keystones, now you know.
They're in
But
Torment.
for those of you that are actually doing it right, you'll have a greater chance of finding them. And finally, the Boon of the Hoarder legendary gem will now proc when your pet kills an enemy. Beforehand, if your pet killed something, you would not get the explosion of gold, and that could screw over witch doctors, wizards that were using Hydra. Demon Hunters, not even just if you're using the Marauders 6-piece, but if you're just using a Sentry or Companion at all, you still have a pretty decent chance at having a bunch of things killed by your pets and you losing out on a lot of gold.
Yeah, and if you guys don't know, sorry, I was going to quickly say Boon of the Hoarder drops from Greed in the Vault, which has a chance to spawn when you kill a Treasure Goblin, and it's a 100% drop chance, so you'll get it eventually if you haven't gotten it already.
Yep. And then we actually have one last one that's an upcoming hotfix that was posted only just a few minutes ago, is that they have disabled the Miser's Will, the Miner's Gold, the Jar of Souls, and the Matriarch's Bones bounties.
A little late for that, maybe?
I was just gonna say, hey Blizzard, you're only 3 days late.
Yeah, and there's actually a big explanation for that. I won't get into, but Lilira has just posted about it about 30 minutes ago with a big, long philosophy behind the changes and why they're doing it. I've not read it yet, so I'm not going to sit here and read the entire thing word for word on the podcast, but it looks... Yeah, it looks mainly because of some of the exploits that were done that got people their level 70 conquests on softcore.
Yeah, so if you guys didn't hear, people were hitting level 70 within less than 2 hours after season started because some of these bounties they complete themselves if you just let them go. So people would go to T6 even though they couldn't handle T6, start the bounty, and then just go hide somewhere. Got a ton of golden experience from it.
And sorry, I was just going to say that people were using it even past getting to level 70 just for massive amounts of experience for Paragon too, so get a bunch of early Paragon levels.
Well, I guess it's a good thing we don't have a Paragon leaderboard for that reason.
Yeah. Seriously.
Yeah, that is one good thing, but it also kind of killed all of the legitimacy of the first to 70 conquest for normals. Hardcore, obviously the strat didn't work at all for hardcore. But it's kind of a shame, for all the softcore players out there. They anyone that was trying to do it legitimately was robbed of that experience because there's no way that you could compete. People were getting it in an hour and a half as opposed to, 6 or 7 hours, doing it the hard way.
Yeah. Shame.
Yeah, but I guess this is the first season. It's all kind of a learning experience. It will be better luck next time in Season 2.
Yeah, I thought it was just kind of a shame because people were doing this on the PTR before seasons even came out. I mean, it seemed like Blizzard had time to fix it before. Maybe they were too busy getting seasons together, but it would have been nice if they could have addressed it before all those conquests were kind of robbed from those players who didn't know about the exploits or wanted to play legit.
Yeah, yeah. And, it's one of those things that they've done previously, starting with Wrath of the Lich King for World of Warcraft, where they had the first to level 80 and 85 and first to level 90 feats of strength in World of Warcraft for each individual server. And people that cheated had those things taken away from them. So if you did some of the exploits where you zone into a dungeon and then you have like everyone go and like kill you tag mobs and then people kill them while you're not in the group, you get a tremendous amount of experience before you get kicked out. And you just constantly repeat that, or you go into an area where there's a bunch of mob quests that infinitely respawn, and you have a team of people all killing things for you, as all you have to do is just throw a dot on it and tag it. That they've taken the achievement and de-leveled people that have done that.
Yeah, I remember they were much quicker to act. I remember Wrath of the Lich King, the Paladin was about to hit 80, and then they took him back down to 70 right before he got it. It wasn't even days after
while he was in progress.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
Yeah, I think that was a Thane.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Who would have thought?
Right.
Yeah.
So I wonder.
I do want to say anything bad about that anyone's ever said about a Thane, whether it's warranted or not. Athene. Thank you. Ogchilds. The man is amazing. Even though he comes off as kind of like this douchey persona, he has donated so many millions of dollars and helped so many charities. Because like Archon said, it is just a persona, but he's an amazing and very thoughtful person.
Yeah. No, yeah, he's awesome. All right, so did that wrap up our news section?
I guess the only other things is they're starting a new feature. I don't know if either one of you want to talk about this, the new fresh meat and greet.
Sure. Yeah, I can take this one. So just rolled out, I want to say 6 hours ago, maybe 7. The Blizzard community manager, Grimiku, threw up a post on the website that basically listed out that they're rolling out this new feature blog that Nineball just introduced called Fresh Meet and Greet. And what they're going to be doing is kind of highlighting, going through, we're trying to determine where they pick the people from, and it looks like it might just be, regular forum goers or people who just kind of post and, get out into the community, get their name out there. This is further giving them more exposure, and just going in and kind of giving, like a little history of how they came to find Diablo, how long they've been playing, the classes. So they picked a player to represent each class. So I guess it's kind of like their main or the one that they enjoy the most or is their favorite. And just asked them a bunch of, kind of like personals questions. If they like long walks on Sanctuary or Steed charging around, the Highlands.
long walks in the rain of blood of your enemies.
Exactly. So I think this will be a cool thing. I noticed that it seems each community manager kind of has a little thing that they do now, like Nev with her Play Your Ways, and Grimiku seems to be tagging the community a lot with, before he was getting the Goatman's guides, and now this Fresh Meet and Greet. So it's pretty cool to see them, really tapping in and trying to get the community more involved and also just more exposed, getting names out there.
Yeah, they each kind of have their own personal project. It's cool to see. Yeah, Nevelistus has been tearing it up on live streams and whatnot. It's cool that we've had a lot more interviews with the devs and insight.
I think that's definitely one of the best things that they've done. It's been well received by the community. It's gotten a lot of positive traction, and people just love hearing the devs talk about the game. Even in like that type of setting, it's not where they're getting asked like a bunch of hard questions or whatever. It might just be, well, what did you worked on last week, type of thing. But it's a lot of fun. It's really interesting, and every single one of them that they've done so far, I think we're up to 3 now, has been just a wealth of knowledge.
Yeah. If you guys are looking for something to watch while you're playing Diablo and you haven't seen the recent Tavern Talk, it did come out before 2.1, but it does have just some great insight from John Yang, Don Vu, and Wyatt Chang about what they're thinking regarding changes they're going to come after 2.1.
Yep. In episode 3 of the Play Your Way Thursday, just had its VOD loaded up on YouTube and Twitch, so you can now catch that.
There you go.
Perfect. But yeah, I would agree that the community has been really appreciative of just getting access to the devs, you could say. Because even I remember when D3 first came out, you know, I was on Twitter a bunch, but not really like within the community of Diablo itself. But it was interesting to see the shift change from, you know, the community being like, we want more transparency, we want to know like why you're making the changes you're making, and to see kind of, you know, like Josh start to get out there and tweet like the ladders thing. That was a great like running gag forever. Wyatt is starting to get out there a lot more, and he's responding to tweets like with philosophy on why they did things the way they did. Like I asked him a question about legendary potions and if he thought we'd ever be able to use them proactively. So like even if you're at full health, if I can just hit my potion button and use it kind of as like a pseudo buff before I go into like a tough fight. And he said that he actually they never intended for potions to be a thing that you would want to use when you weren't like at low health. And so because they introduced those legendary potions, it actually changed the way that their philosophy was for developing the potion mechanic, if you will. So just things like that. Like I just came up, I just was like, I kind of want to know the answer to this. And now we have access to these devs, so it's great.
Yeah, I think like the first 6 months especially, they made a big change. The community managers, I think, were a little guarded at first, you know, which has a lot to do with how much information the devs want to put out. But yeah, I think they've taken the feedback from the community to heart and have just been a lot more transparent, and yeah, players definitely noticed.
Agreed. I remember actually when they first added that philosophy section to the patch notes. I don't know if you guys remember, I think it was maybe with 2.06. And just the feedback from that, everyone being like, oh, this is great. Like, even though like some of it was actually like, you know, we're nerfing this or like we're still fine tuning this. People are like, oh, I'm just so happy to know why.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think that was right around when Nevelistus started writing up the patch notes, right?
Yeah, and it was just understanding the reasoning behind the nerfs or the changes was more than enough to quell the majority of the complaining that you saw. That it's like, you know, oh, you're nerfing me, I can't. Oh, you're explaining why. That makes sense. You know, obviously, yeah, you still got a lot of people that are going to troll just for trolling, but and I just have to stop in my middle of the sentence. I want invincible minions back. You are a horrible person, and I dislike you.
That was a comment from the live stream for any of our listeners. Yeah, well, he probably didn't play hardcore.
Yeah,
I didn't play hardcore at the time either when invincible minions were a thing, and I still have very horrible memories of that.
Yeah, that was pretty rough. Invincible minions with shielding would.
Oh god, nightmares.
Yeah, just watch yourself die.
And with Horde, that was always a beautiful one.
Yeah.
Yes, you can't get through their wall of unkillable minions. Jeez.
All right. Well, maybe we should talk a bit about the season thing that just came out. I heard people are playing that or something.
Yeah, I don't know. What's up with it? What is this new season thing?
I don't know.
A little popular.
Yeah. Yeah, well, Leviathan and Nineball over here, I thought I'd have no trouble keeping up with them, because I thought I'd been playing quite a bit. But Nineball's devoted his life to RNGesus, and it's reaping its rewards.
Yes, it is.
And Leviathan decided that sleep is just overrated and completely unnecessary.
For the weak.
So yeah, I was a little preemptive before, but maybe Leviathan could share his story. He had a pretty exciting start to seasons.
Yes, indeed. So I'll let Nineball cover sort of the leveling process that we went through, because that was pretty interesting. And then after we got to 70, because I played with Nineball, also played with Danny Ray, who writes for Bliss Pro 2. We all were in a game just, you know, cruising our way quickly up to 70. And then very shortly after that, Nineball went to bed, and Danny Ray took a break. And so I was like, I don't feel that tired. I'll keep playing for a little bit.
Famous last words.
Decided to keep playing. I was getting some Paragon levels. I was feeling good, getting gear, and progressing rather quickly. Like, Jesus, before he decided to forsake me, was very much on my side. and then Nine Ball decided to have a dream or a prophecy or something and took him from me. But I got up to like Torment 2 very quickly because I got the Crusader, the seasonal Crusader shield, which takes away the cooldown from Condemn and makes it cost 40 Wrath, so it kind of becomes spammable. And I also, shortly after that, picked up a Blade of Prophecy, which makes it so that every time you cast Condemn on an enemy, it also casts Condemn itself. So you were just explosions everywhere. Condemn does a ton of damage, like at least 1100%, if not more, and was feeling really great about it. So obviously my damage was ramping up rather quickly, and again, we're playing hardcore, and I kind of wasn't paying attention to my toughness. I was like, I'm just killing stuff. This is awesome. As I was telling Nine Ball and Archon beforehand, I hopped into Torment 2, was doing a regular Rift, and I poured it into the area, what did we say they were? The Fields of what? Eternity?
The Battlefield of Eternity.
Battlefield, yes, Battlefield of Eternity. And so if you guys are familiar with this area, it starts off rather narrow. It's kind of like snaky, and then it opens up into the bigger battlefield, if you will. And in that little narrow area, I just so happened to run into, I believe it was a Horde champion pack with Waller. And I'm going to throw this out there. I think Waller is maybe a little too strong because there are times where it gets cast right on top of me and I cannot move anymore. And I thought they changed that so that there was kind of a radius where they couldn't cast it like so close to you. But in any case, I got completely walled in. And my brain processing this after 10 hours of just playing like nonstop super hard, super concentrated. I'm like, oh, if I kill them, then the threat is gone. Now, mind you, they have other fixes besides Waller, but I'm just focused on this Waller. So I kill them all. The thing about Condemn is that it often kills everything all at once. So all of them die at the same time, and they also happen to have Molten. I'm stuck in the walls. Moltens explode, like full health to 0. Dunzos.
Oh, sad Panda.
So sad.
Very sad Panda, and that was quite a bit of a hit for me because I left him last night. He's already like 30 Paragon levels ahead of me because I went and took a little bit of a break to grab something to eat in the middle of the night.
Shame
and then
on you.
I wake up in the morning, and I go and check Twitter is like the first thing that I do, and I just see I lost my I lost my my first hardcore crusader, and I was just no. My leveling buddy's dead. But I had a Warhammer tournament, so I was gone for a couple hours. I come back, and not only is he already 70, but his crusader's already better geared than my demon hunter is. So this man is a machine. I don't believe that he actually sleeps. He just plugs himself into a wall socket, so that way he can continue playing.
I am a robot.
Yeah, and I don't know if we mentioned it yet on this episode. We all play hardcore on seasons right now.
Yes. If you're a first-time listener to the show, we like hardcore.
Or didn't know that I turned to the dark side because I have been softcore in the past.
Yeah, that's true. Though the past couple episodes, you said you were going to play hardcore in seasons.
Yeah, it's true. I got lured in.
Yep. And well, before we continue on with our leveling story, how has that been for you? What is your experiences been like being on the hardcore side?
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. I think I'm digging hardcore. I unfortunately had plans Friday night that I just couldn't justify getting out of, so I had to start late, but got to 70 on Saturday.
I thought you said you were hardcore.
I know. I know. I should have marked it on my calendar, even though I didn't know the day. If I had maybe cleared it with WifeCon ahead of time, I could have gotten out. But sometimes you got to earn some husband points, and I took one for the team. Anyways, started Saturday, got to 70 fairly quickly. I guess probably took 9 or 10 hours. And then my first legendary was the Aetherwalker, which is the season-specific legendary for wizards. It's a wand that allows you to have teleport. Teleport has no cooldown, but it costs 25 arcane power instead, which I'm a little embarrassed because I saw this before season started, and I was like, that's a dumb legendary. No one's going to use that over these other awesome legendaries because 25 arcane power is about 1/4 of your arcane power, and anyway, turns out I was wrong. So, like one thing, if you use Wormhole with it, you only have to pay for every other teleport. So you're already bringing it down to about 12 cost. And
That is
then,
awesome.
yeah. And then with a little bit of arcane power regen, you can just teleport infinitely. And so I stacked a little bit of cooldown reduction, put on some arcane power regen, and was just doing this arcane orb spam build. So I could just spam arcane orbs and then teleport infinitely. And that worked really well for bounties. Especially like Act 3 bounties, going through barracks and stuff, just straight through the walls. It was really fun.
That's awesome, since that's one of the areas people tend to hate the most.
Yeah, like barracks level 2 usually takes a year to get to, and now it's just floop, 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 floop.
It feels like the good old D2 days of.
That's exactly what I was gonna say.
Yeah.
Deep there.
Yes, Enigma is back, but I guess only for the wizard now, so it's not really.
Oh.
But yeah, I guess on that same note, there was a blue post that just came out today about the Aether Walker, because it says it completely removes the cooldown. It doesn't. There's still a very small global cooldown, so you have to wait just a half second. It's a really small pause. It really doesn't delay you as much as you think it would, because if you just hold down teleport and try to aim, you're probably going to hit a corner pretty quickly, unless you're crazy awesome at teleporting. But I do wish they'd get rid of it. Their explanation was we don't want people to accidentally teleport twice when they only meant to teleport once. But I don't know if that's a strong argument, because Wormhole allows you to teleport twice and it has no cooldown. So if you're using Wormhole in the Aether Walker, you'll be like teleport, 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 teleport. And it's never seemed to be a problem with Wormhole accidentally teleporting twice. Hopefully they'll reconsider that. Yeah, I was using Calamity for a while so I could just kill all the small mobs as I was going around normal bounties. And so fast forward a little bit further, I'm now doing T2, trying to get Firebirds. Not a whole lot of luck. Definitely not as much luck as Nineball's about to tell you he's got. But I did get my Ring of Royal Grandeur. It was my second bounty legendary, and it rolled with 41 crit damage. So including that, my current set status is 4 pieces of Blackthorn, which is great for hardcore. 3 pieces of Argyles, and then I guess technically.
What set is that? Is that a new set?
Oh yeah, sorry, Ogchilds. Ogchilds. Yes.
There we go.
And
We
then
pronounce it properly on this show.
Because yeah, it's French. You know, don't ask. And technically, I guess 3 pieces of Veers and 3 pieces of Firebirds, although they don't have 3-piece set bonuses. So yeah, I just can't wait to get the overpowered Firebirds. It looks like it's I don't know, possibly the most OP set right now. I think Wizards are killing it. Wizards and Demon Hunters both are killing it. I think it's probably on par with M6 from what I've seen.
Yeah, it's like, you know, speaking of overpowered builds and all the mentionings of RNGesus, I just want to preface this with all the time that I spent playing Reaper Assaults prior to Season 1, I had only ever found 1 piece of Marauders. Now, 72 hours into the seasons after it started, I had my full 6-piece set bonus. I don't know if they've upped the drop rates or RNG is just on my side, but this is like the greatest experience ever. They're just walking around, just like it almost felt like I could just go just like a couple hours and be like looking at the clock. Okay, well it's been 2 hours since my last Marauder set piece dropped, so where's the next one? Ah, there it is. But yeah, that's been amazing. But going back to the beginning,
yes.
Before the season started, Steven and I, we both are kind of big achievement junkies, and so this whole concept of conquests, where they have kind of not quite a feat of strength like World of Warcraft, where only one person can get it. They have the top 1,000 people in every region can go through and complete these, and your names kind of will be, you know, permanently recorded for that leaderboard. It will only save the top 1,000 people, and that's it. And we both kind of had come to the agreement that we want to try and rock as many of these conquests as we possibly can, and obviously the first one is the first to level 70 in hardcore. And you know, so we started planning it out. You know, what some strategies we're going to do, how we're going to go through and target it. You know, we had an idea and we had a plan. You know, later on, seeing what some other people have done, we learned that we can modify it and change it. You know, like upping the difficulty a little bit more, maybe targeting a different act or specific bounties, which a lot of them have been disabled now, so that won't work out. But we ended up doing a lot of rift farming, and that was actually a tremendous amount of experience. And some of the people that we knew that were maybe 45 minutes ahead of us getting to 70 had pretty much just been doing like straight rifts from level 30 on, and we're getting really good mileage out of the experience from there. But, you know, happy to say that we did actually complete our goal. You know, we were up until 5 o'clock in the morning just doing nothing but grinding levels, but we finally hit it, and we're all around 300-ish. I think, Steven, you got first?
Yeah, because of the, I happened to, it's really funny because as we're leveling up, I think it was Danny Ray first who found a Leoric Signet, which for those who aren't familiar, it's a ring that gives you experience, percentage experience bonus. And so I'm like, dang it, like now he's gonna be ahead of us, and it kind of sucks, but it's awesome. And then we keep going, and 9ball gets one, and I'm just like, oh man, I'm the guy left behind now. This isn't fun. And I happened to, I think it was like level 40 something. I happened to get a Leoric's Crown, which was changed for 2.1 and given a legendary power that doubles whatever gem effect is in. Well, it has a percentage range, so it can go, I think, like 70% to 100% of multiplying the effect of whatever gem you have in there. So
yours
once
was
I got
really good. Yours was like 95 or something, wasn't it?
yeah, I want to say like 93 or 95%, like super high roll. And once I got that, all my gold was being sunk into just upgrading rubies as much as I possibly could.
See, I'm thinking they upped the chance for the orcs to drop because I couldn't tell until now maybe if it was coincidence, but our group of 4, 3 of us got Leoric Signets by the time we were in our 30s.
Really?
Yeah, I want to say like by now I think I've actually found like 7 Leoric Signets, but I found 2 while leveling.
Jesus.
One in the 20s, and then I found another one in the 40s, which was just it rolled trifecta. And so I was using that at 70 because it was the best damage increase that I had.
Oh,
you know,
wow.
it was kicking the ass of anything else that I found. So nothing compared. So I'm just running around with a level 45 ring and plus 23% XP.
You hear that,
And
Leviathan? He was holding out on you. He had 2 rings the whole time.
Oh yeah, what the heck?
It was over 2 hours. I'm sorry. Sorry, I couldn't trade.
So sorry.
But I actually have since replaced that Leoric Signet with a level 70 Leoric Signet, which is a crit damage and a socket. So it's nice. I'm still holding out hope for an SOJ, but it does it for now. Other than that, I mean, once we hit 70, it was just a bunch of grinding. You know, you already heard the story that I went to bed, Steven died. I then went out and had some other stuff to do while he caught up and then surpassed my Demon Hunter. But since then, it's kind of been the 2 of us just going and knocking it out. Just a lot of bounty farming, and then eventually moving on to Torment. Steven actually was in Torment first, and he's carried me a little bit through some rifts, but a couple of good drops, and then we were just knocking it out of the ballpark.
Yeah, I'd say now it's reversed because it feels like I just I go up to the mobs and I poke them and stun them with my sweep attack, and then all of a sudden I look around and everything is dead from these crazy sentries.
Yeah, the sentries are amazing. It was running the Marauder 6-piece, and it was great. I just was thinking I probably sunk maybe 1,000 blood shards in just half a day, trying to get a Bombardier's rucksack, and nothing was happening. And then it was just yesterday we decided we're going to go and see how far we can get in Greater Rifts. Let's just go through and do it, maybe do some upgrades and such. And it's just like, okay, that's cool, let's do it. All right, hold on, I've got like 50 blood shards, let me just go through and roll with Kadal a little bit. And bam, there we go. There's the Bombardier's rucksack right before we go to do the our first rift. So that was amazing. It was that, and then I think we got to 26. We just barely beat 26 because we had some survivability issues. We had to run around, but I think we're pretty set on trying to go and get that Greater Rift 30 achievement in addition to a couple of the others.
Yeah, that's really impressive. You guys are doing pretty well on the leaderboards, right?
Yeah, I think when we got it last night, we were like rank 8 on the 2-man hardcore riffs, and we're now dropped down to like the 40s. But yeah, our even it would be great to be towards the top on the leaderboards, but our main goal is getting that Greater Rift 30 conquest, and then of course we're going to work on getting Malthael, the Soul of Evil, and then also the completing the entire game in 1 hour. Like I said, we're achievement junkies, so we want our names on every single one.
Well, if you guys
season.
Yeah, I was thinking, since I got the Aether Walker, I'd want to go after the Acts 1 through 5 in an hour. And I don't know if you've seen it. One thing is, the only people who've gotten it the last time I checked are Wizards and Demon Hunters. And 2, no one's done it on hardcore yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'd love to get that world first, America's first.
Yeah. I say let's do it. I know, I think with the Demon Hunter, I've been trying, but I've not had the luck. I found 2 Denetis Spites. If I can get the other one for the 2-piece set bonus that makes Tumble or Vault cost Hatred instead of Discipline, is one of the things that you use to go through and help out with that. But the thing I'm surprised with is we don't see a lot of Crusaders, because, well, Steven, you take on this one, because this has been what you've been running the entire time, and it is like the most beautiful thing you have ever seen.
Yes. So I want you to put inside of your head your first thoughts of the Crusader back in Friends and Family. You know, everyone was running the Heavenly Strength. It was the best thing ever. A 2-hander and a shield? What? But it comes at the lack of movement speed. So everyone thought of the Crusader class as like this slow thing. And you got a horse that you could ride every now and again, but you're just kind of like trudging along, this moving tank, as they like to so often describe it, battle-scarred armor. And I've never subscribed to that, because I love my one-handers, because I love attack speed and just attacking quickly and getting my procs off. That's always been the builds that I tend to go for. And I got lucky because I found a Swift mount, which I don't think many people, if any, use this, because it's not like a BIS weapon. And, you know, it's not in any of the popular builds. But what it does is it doubles the duration of your steed charge. Now, because they moved, actually there was, I think it was maybe patch 2.04 or 2.03, where they were messing around with steed charge a little bit, because they wanted it to be more about using it in combat for repositioning versus using it solely as a movement skill. So they actually nerfed its duration from standard 2 seconds down to 1.5, and then endurance, which was the, and still is, the rune that would give you extra duration on it, it moved down from 3 to 2. But then at some point, I think it might have been 2.05 or 2.06, they were like, all right, we're bringing it back to its original duration. And what they had done previously, I forgot to mention this, was that they lowered the cooldown on it. So they thought that, you know, you would be able to hit the button more, you would just write it for less. So they kept the cooldown low, they put the duration back up, and now what you can do with Swift Mount gives you 6 seconds on the horse with endurance, and if you get your cooldown reduction low enough, you have unlimited horsey.
Wow.
It is amazing. Like, you will traverse entire maps so fast.
Do you know what the number is on how much cooldown reduction you need?
Let me think. So it's 15 seconds of a cooldown, and if you get Swift Mount, that brings it up to 6 when you're riding it. So you need to reduce the cooldown to 9 seconds. So what is that? 6, 3, 40%?
Around there, yeah.
Yep. And also you can use Lord Commander too, which gives you 35% decreased cooldown on your steed charge, which is a passive.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
That sounds pretty sexy. I think we need to go after this conquest.
I'm ready, man.
Yeah. I'm not sure if I'll be up for it after the podcast, but if you guys want to maybe get together tomorrow night for an hour at some point, I'm down for it.
All right.
Sounds good.
Yeah,
one thing that I actually wanted to touch on too, kind of like broaden our scope a little bit, because when Archon asked about, you know, what rank we had got into with the 2-player Greater Rifts, I looked at it during the day, and I saw that we had dropped down to like the 20s or something, and I wasn't even mad. Like, we're gonna go back to this quote. I'm impressed, right? I'm not even mad. But this is what I love about Seasons right now, is that because it's so brand new, it's so fresh, everyone is in there, and everyone is still like sussing out their gear, getting the builds that they want optimized and things like that. So there's so much fluctuation between who's on top, who's in the middle, who's on the bottom. And I love waking up and being like, or going to bed, I should say, and be like, yes, I cleared like Rift 21. I'm, ranked 17. I'm feeling good about that. And wake up and like, what? I'm down to 60. These guys have been working. It just keeps motivating you to want to play even more. And it's this great feeling of like, you don't wake up and say like, oh man, like I know I'm gonna go and farm some rifts today. You almost wake up and you play Diablo. You're like, what do I want to do today? Maybe I'll upgrade my gems so that makes me a little more competitive and faster, greater rift clears. But wait, then I need to go and do some regular rifts so I get my blood shards, so I get some more gear. Like there's so many things to do now.
Yeah, it's definitely going in the right direction. So what were you gonna say?
Oh no, go on.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm still wondering if I'll get burnt out, because right now I'm super addicted, but probably playing more than I should for my own gear, for my own good. But yeah, I think the seasons is what we needed.
Yeah, and to kind of build upon what Stephen was saying there, for me it really is. I almost feel as if they couldn't have even added in half the things that they did in 2.1, and this would still be such an amazing experience for me, just because it's the motivation. Like what Stephen was talking about, just having a goal that is set there that you want to strive for, having the leaderboards, having the conquests, it's giving you these actual tangible goals, kind of like back when, Paragon 100 was the top that there was. It gave people something to strive for, and then when they, just opened up the limit in Reaper of Souls, it's kind of like, well, I guess I could go for 800, but does it really matter? It's like when you don't have an actual goal, it kind of takes away something from there. But now you have all these things where it's like, get to Greater Rift 30, kill Malthael on Torment 6. You have these things that, they feel like it's more of an accomplishment than it was prior. And so it's definitely motivating me to want to go through and get that, and the kind of that feeling of competition. And then just what, Stephen was saying, now that we're actually going through and playing a lot of it, that a lot of the comments that we had made about in previous podcasts about, well, Greater Rifts, it might feel that it's all the same. There might not be enough there. You're still kind of being forced into doing the same thing. But now it's, at least in the season, and you're kind of like in this frantic mad dash, it really does feel like they're these completely separate game modes, because you can do rifts, but then the greater rifts, you actually have to take a little bit of thought before you go into it if you want to try and push, to the higher levels, which is what, not only are we trying to do for the conquest, but in order to get your gems, because, now even at like in the upper 20s, it's only like, a 60% chance to upgrade some of the gems, so we actually have to push up there in order to get our gems higher, so we can get to the next rank in the greater rifts. So and then, you want to go through and do bounty runs, because we need the Ring of Royal Grandeur, which after the hotfix today apparently is going to be instantly. But it's also, we were doing it because we wanted to try and find goblins, because we were running out of money from upgrading gems. So it's like we needed to try and find a goblin on Torment 1 so we can get into the vault, so we can get a ton of cash to keep it going. And so it's kind of, you're having to diversify your playtime, and you're like making real decisions about what you want to do, because you feel like there's this this clock just sitting behind you ticking down, that's like, I have to be kind of efficient about what it is that I'm doing, and not just go all willy-nilly, which is kind of opposite from what I've said previously, where I like to play to have fun instead of playing for efficiency. But now it's like that is making it fun.
Yeah, it's D2 ladders all over again, but
it really is.
with a lot more features. And I would just to put my 2 cents in, if you didn't start Seasons, and now you're thinking like, oh man, Seasons does kind of sound fun, I wouldn't be discouraged. I mean, I know it seems like you're behind here because it's been out for, I guess, 5 days now, but really, Seasons are likely going to last 3 months or longer, and in the long run, these 5 days aren't going to mean a whole lot. RNG is going to have more to do with it than a 5-day head start will in the months to come. And like, get in there. I mean, even if you're not on the top of the regular leaderboards, you can still compete with your friends list and the clans list. Like, you'll have something that you're competing at if you're down to play somewhat regularly in the seasons.
Yeah, I mean that's actually a really great point too, because the real rush, and this is, I think, one of the greatest things that they did when they did not implement a leveling ladder, is that the real rush is that first 1 through 70 if you want that conquest. If you don't even care about the conquest, you can basically jump into seasons at any point and still like be viable. Obviously, like if you leave it to the last 2 weeks of the season, you're probably not going to climb a leaderboard. You know, you're really pushing your RNGesus luck there. But just the fact that because the leaderboards are what they are, it really is about just getting the gear and being the most optimized in your build. You know, maybe having the best knowledge of the class that you play and what's going to give you that 1% edge over someone else. So yeah, even if you like, you know, you couldn't like, for instance, you Archon, you couldn't make the first night, but you're still going to be competitive because you're currently building up your gear, you're building up your character, and you know by a week, you know, 2 weeks, you're going to be at those high torment levels too. So
yeah,
what did you miss? You know?
Yeah, exactly. Well, legendary gems, Leviathan, you'd kind of mentioned that before the show. I wanted to. Maybe I could just start off by talking about, I can't remember the name of it, Boon the Hoarder? Boon of the Horde? What was it?
For the Horde.
Yeah, so it's the legendary gem you get for greed we talked about earlier. It has a starting at 25% chance when you kill an enemy to have them burst into gold. At normal, it seems to be around 4,000 gold per burst, but I guess that was when the gold was doubled, so maybe it's down to 2,000 now. I'm not sure if the weekend gold buff was doubling it or not. But during the weekend on Torment 1, it was about 16,000 every time it exploded. And this is 1 in 4 enemies, so if you have this gem on and you're clearing through Torment 1 fairly quickly, you're going to get millions of gold super fast. And we talked about it a little bit before the show. I'm not sure how I feel about it because it's getting to the point where the majority of people's gold is either coming from that gem or the vault, and simple gold find gear when you're out farming seems a little lackluster when you know anytime you need gold you can just put on that gem and you're going to get it really quickly, much faster than you would without it.
Yeah. See, the thing, like now, because when we were first discussing it, I was like, oh, maybe it's not that much of a problem. And I still kind of feel that way. Just because, like, so my reasoning for it originally was that because it's seasons, and this is like one of the first times we're really getting to play with this gem, it makes a lot of sense to have it so that you kind of get that, you know, a way to get yourself a ton of gold in case you start to run out and you're running into issues where, like, you know, this one piece of a con set or this one Veer piece finally drops for you, but it's missing that one crucial stat, and RNG is just absolutely against you, so you're enchanting for days. You know, going on rift runs, getting your crafting materials up, and you know maybe you finally get a ton of crafting materials, and gold is the one thing holding you back. It'd feel pretty crappy to then have to keep farming again and again and again to try and get the gold, and then you still miss on your enchant. So this gem just kind of gives you another way around RNG, which I feel like you're going to need a couple of systems. You know, and that's when you look at Kadal, that's one system. This Boon of the Hoarder is another system too, because it just helps you to sort of circumvent those bad beats where you're not getting what you need, and not feeling all that bad about it because you know you have an active way to boot. Oh, I need more gold, I'll put this gem on. Oh, I need more crafting materials, I'll go on these runs or whatever.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. I do giving players some control on how much gold they're farming on, but letting players target gold specifically was hard to do before Boon. You know, putting on a full set of magic or gold find gear is kind of unrealistic when you're trying to farm efficiently. I feel like it still kind of diminishes any gold you find without the gem, and maybe if players don't have enough gold to combat RNG, you know, we just need a buff to gold find overall.
Maybe I think I'll take the opposite side of it, that it does, you know, even though it's good points about, you know, having the mechanics in place to try and circumvent RNG, or maybe, you know, going through and buffing gold find. Because the other thing that we do have to realize is that all the gold problems that we've been having this entire weekend, we've been playing with plus 100% gold find and double goblins.
Yeah.
So it's like that's mitigated a lot of, you know, what issues that we might have had getting gold at the beginning of the season. But then it's, you know, it's a limiting mechanic in and of itself, and it's something that we've not really known or experienced since the launch, because everything was screwed out of whack because of the fallover from the real money auction house. You know, so it's this is actually like a true fresh start where there is none of that influence. There's none of that gold in the economy with which that people had, you know, prior to going into Reaper of Souls, where it all became BOP. And so this is what it's kind of like, what it was intended for, like or what they envisioned for when Reaper of Souls first came out. So it's kind of the first time that they've seen what all these gold values are. So we might see them, you know, reduce some of those gold costs, you know, even more, because they did a lot of reductions in costs of crafting, costs of upgrades at the beginning of Reaper of Souls. We might see it again to try and make seasons a little bit more easier for people. But it's you know, it's fulfilling its purpose as a limiter. It's something that makes you, you know, you want to go through and chant, you want to go through and craft all this gear. Well, you have to stop and you have to go and play the game a little bit more before you can go through and do that.
And so it's tough to get it right too, right? Because you're kind of balancing two things. There's player fun, and that comes when you kill a bunch of mobs, and all of a sudden there's a rain of gold on your screen. That's awesome. And I've seen like tons of people posting on Twitter and like fan sites collecting images where they just have these screens that you see nothing but gold on the ground. And
Yeah.
it's really cool. And I guess the other hand on that is that, okay, you're giving players these great moments where they're like, oh my God, I feel rich now. But does that then defeat the other side of the game where, you know, you're supposed to be, you know, grinding, and it's supposed to be kind of tough to get those like best in slot, you know, upgrades and affixes and things like that. So what if they keep the fun? You can still get all your gold that you want from the gym, but then they up the costs on the other side. So maybe, you know, when you're at that 50th time trying to enchant your bracers, it's just like ridiculously expensive. And maybe that counterbalances when you're starting to just get these massive amounts of stored up gold that you have no use for.
Yeah, I think that solves one of the problems. I think the problem at that point is then when you're not using the gem, it just feels like you're getting a negligible amount of gold. Like you'll never have enough gold unless you're using the gold gem, Boon of Horde. I can't remember.
Boon of the Hoarder. You got it.
Boon of the Hoarder. Cool. Yeah. But no, totally. Those, especially with like the cursed chests, when you have to kill 100 mobs, all in the same spot. By the end, there's just like a million gold.
I just want to go through and say something real quick, that I've done that with the Hoarder's gem of going through and killing all the mobs and then just walking around and collecting. Is like, oh, I just got 750,000 gold. That was awesome. But nothing can beat, you know, doing those quests with Marauder 6. Yeah, I've never done it before, but actually having done it myself now, let me just go through, put up my 5 sentries. Okay, Steven, you got this? Bye. You know,
AFK.
I'll be back in 2 minutes.
Right, and now you'll actually get gold when your sentries kill stuff.
Ooh.
Yes. So when we go back to farming, I might have to swap something out for that Boon of the Hoarder.
No, it's so funny though, because he's literally standing there just like he's like in his inventory or something, not madly clicking on stuff, trying to like contribute before everything dies, so I can just tag stuff to feel better about myself. Like, this is ridiculous.
Have either of you found a either of you found a gold wrap yet to test with it?
I just got one yesterday.
For anyone who doesn't know, gold wrap it's a belt that gives you armor based on how much gold you've picked up in the last 5 seconds or so. So yeah, you could effectively get like 1,000,000 bonus armor, which would just give you a ridiculous amount of toughness. Maybe if any viewers are doing that, please send us a screenshot. I'd love to see like how much toughness people could get up to using that.
And I just lied to you. I got a gold skin.
There you go.
Just kidding.
And that's actually going to be an impressive number, because we have that screenshot from quite a few episodes ago where someone was, I think it was almost like 1 billion toughness.
Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah, it was in the hundreds of millions for sure.
I think it was almost like 800 or 900 million toughness.
Yeah, but it definitely wasn't anywhere near 1,000,000 armor.
That's true.
Yep, this is true. Another thing that actually goes well with that is the the Custurian wrist guards.
They give you the experience.
Yeah, they give you the experience. I keep a set of those, even though I'm not using the Boon of the Hoarder any longer. I keep a set of those in my stash just for that off chance that we might actually, you know, come across the vault again at some point, just so I can throw that on and just run through and reap all the experience.
Yeah. Yeah, vault farming got pretty popular over the weekend, and I don't know if it'll be worth it now that there's not double treasure goblins, but I know people had been farming Tower of the Damned, Halls of Agony 2, some of those other areas that have higher chances for treasure goblins. Did you guys do any treasure goblin specific farming?
No.
Not targeted.
Yeah, I guess some of those people on T6 with gold find gear were getting as much as 400 million gold in one vault run, which is pretty insane. You're set after a couple of those, I guess.
Oh yeah. And see, I think that, and so sorry. Two thoughts that I wanted to throw out there for you guys. The first is that we were just talking about the fact that we were under this buff for the weekend of both the double gold and also the double goblins. And I'm wondering actually if this was a smart move. I don't know if smart's the right word, but if this was the right move for Blizzard to do, because it kind of skews the data of what the start of a season looks like. And especially with season 1 being so much of a test baby for them to basically say like, all right, this is what our first season looked like. Here's how we refine it from here. You know, I feel like they're not going to have the greatest idea of what an actual amount of like starting gold and like unlocking the artisans, your stash space, etc. will really look like, because so many people are able to get into the vault to get the gem, which then is upping your gold already, and then they're also benefiting from the buffs to the gold find too. So it's kind of crazy. And I mean, I don't know. I guess we'll see. Maybe they can just cut everything in half and be like, this is what it would have been normally. I don't know. The other side,
that's a fair point.
Yeah, and the other thing that I want to throw out there too was I almost see the Boon of the Hoarder gem as a mode, if you will. So when you're in I need gold mode, or I want to go gold find mode, it's no longer about, you know, throwing on your gold find set. It's about throwing on your gold find gem, basically. Because it's not something that you're always going to be using, right? Because in a Greater Rift, unless you're utilizing with the gold wrap, it's not really doing much for you to get you ahead, to get you faster or more powerful or clearing faster, or safer, I should say, too, with hardcore. So it won't always be the gem that you have equipped, and that's something to think about.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, and I do like that aspect of it. On a quick side note, you reminded me of this. Did either of you guys have your stash tabs already unlocked? I had 4 of my 5 stash tabs already when I started seasons.
I had nothing. I had to buy every single thing.
I'm wondering if it was some kind of glitch, because I know you guys already had your stash tabs unlocked on hardcore seasons, and I did as well, but talking to my viewers, I seem to be the only one I've talked to that had those carry over into seasons, and just got a little lucky, I guess.
It was on. Oh, sorry, just real quick. On the PTR, the last time that we checked it on the PTR, they were all unlocked. But on live, when the seasons actually happened, and I rolled my first character, you know, all I had was just the first slot, and I had to buy everything on the first stash all the way through.
Yeah, well, as Minerva pointed out in chat, it must have been the streamer buff that everyone knows about.
There you go.
Yeah, I wonder if, because you didn't roll a character right at 6 Pacific, right?
No, yeah, it wasn't until the next morning.
So I wonder if it was people who didn't start right away, and I wouldn't say if it was just to compensate that, but maybe there was some weird bug where, like, if you didn't roll it right away, it didn't process that. I have no idea, but I just know that there was one other person who also didn't start right away, who also had their stash tabs all unlocked as well.
Oh yeah, that's interesting. Were they streaming?
Was not streaming.
This provides a perfect opportunity to try and collect some information from our viewers and listeners out there. What was your experience, not just for hardcore, but maybe softcore as well? When you created a seasonal character, did you have any of your stash tabs unlocked? If you did or if you didn't, just send us an email, westmarchworkshop@blizzpro.com. And let us know, like when you created your character, and if you had anything unlocked or any extra tabs or anything like that,
Yeah, I would say send an email if you had them unlocked, because I have heard from at least 100 people who have not. It seems like that's the norm, but it would be interesting to hear how many people also had them unlocked.
Okay.
I'm worried we're gonna get flooded with super massive emails, I guess, but
No,
but
no, no.
but yeah, at least in chat here we have about 100 people, and no one else has said about stash tabs unlocked. Mikey says he started 2 days after release, no stash tabs. But Minerva started 1 day late and had full stash tabs, but no extra tabs. So I'm not sure what that means. Sorry. Yeah, but we were talking about legendary gems. Are there certain legendary gems you guys are focusing on right now?
Yeah, so this is why I wanted to touch on this because I left the weekend at a loss because I didn't play around with the gems at all in the PTR. After they were enabled, I had already kind of had my fill of the PTR, so I didn't go back in to collect them and try them out. So this season has been like my first, test run with any of them. And it was really funny because I'm looking at all of them. I'm like, oh, that's okay, that's all right. But I'm thinking of them in terms of comparing them to like skills and not comparing them to affixes. And then once I kind of wrapped my mind around that, I was like, these are actually amazing because this is like, I was like looking at one gem. And I'm like, this is always going to outscale 50% crit damage. Like, why would I ever like care about not having that on my ring anymore?
Yeah.
And it was just it's almost like when we transitioned over to Reaper of Souls, people were having to like wrap their minds around the fact that like sheet damage didn't matter so much anymore because of elemental that wasn't factored in. So it's kind of like that happening again. But then I went on to Twitter this morning or maybe yesterday morning and was just asking people which gems they were finding, to be the most useful. And when Nineball and I were talking, we looked at specifically the efficacious toxin, I think is what it's called, which is a gem that applies a dot for 10 seconds, 2100, I think, as the default, or maybe 2000 percent. 2000? Okay, 2000% weapon damage over 10 seconds.
As poison?
As poison. And the level 25 unlock for that is that you do 10% damage to any mob that's under that effect. Just flat 10% boost damage from all sources. And at first I was looking, I was like, oh, that's only 200% damage per second. That can't be that good. And when I sent out this tweet, literally everyone replied that they were using efficacious.
Huh. Yeah, that's interesting.
I guess it's good.
Yeah, we were talking about it in Clan because some people weren't sure if they wanted to replace 50% crit damage on their ring with a gem, which, for anyone who doesn't know, 50% crit damage is pretty much considered top affix you would normally get on a typical ring. But, yeah, I mean, depending on your build, some legendary gems are going to be better than others, but I think it's pretty safe to say that a socket is definitely the new best affix on rings, and it's debatable on amulets.
It is definitely up there as some of the best things. I know for my legendary gems, I was actually going and looking at what is it? There was the Smite gem, and also the Toxic gem were two of the ones that, after looking more and playing around with some of them, changing from my thoughts in the last episode, that I was kind of gonna go and start using. But after doing some research, in the last podcast, a lot of people said that the sentries are not affected by Enforcer, but then later finding out that they are in fact affected by Enforcer. But it doesn't give it a 15% damage bonus. It just adds 15% to its already built-in damage. Yeah, so it goes from 285 or 280 to 295 instead of going up to 322. So it's the amount that it increases it by at 0%, is within the variance of the damage of the skill already. So it's kind of hard to tell the difference that it's adding. Yeah. But of course, it increases as you level it up. But like the best gem, at least for demon hunters, is the Bane of the Trapped. It gives you a flat 15% damage bonus that scales up to anything that is under the effect of crowd control. And using the Marauder 6-piece, you can go and throw Frost Arrow on your sentries. So all of your sentries are just throwing out Frost Arrow, keeping a chill effect that slows them, that procs the damage bonus. And this stacks on top of Cull the Weak. So you just throw that one in, and suddenly everything takes 35% damage from you when you have Cold a Week. And it scales, with all the damage that you regularly do. So instead of having something that's just an additional weapon damage attack, it just is a force multiplier for everything else that's going on. And then its level 25 ability just gives you kind of a 15-yard bubble that automatically slows everything, so it takes the increased damage from it. But it's an insanely powerful gem. It's best in slot, I know, for Demon Hunters. Probably for any other class that can reliably slow enemies, like probably a Frost Wizard or something along those lines.
Or even Arcane Wizard now, with Temporal Flux.
But it is so amazing.
Yeah, I was wondering, have we gotten a confirmation yet on whether or not plus to elemental damage on your gear affects the procs from legendary gems?
I am not sure.
Because I've been operating under the assumption it has. I wonder if anyone in chat has done any testing.
I was talking to Jake, and I kind of assumed that he's the Bible because he does so much testing.
That's true.
And he said that it does because he was talking about Wreath of Lightning, which is like the mini conduit shrine. He was saying that's really good for lightning wizards. But what was interesting, actually, I mean, I don't play much wizard, if any wizard. He was telling me that it doesn't proc, oh God, was it elemental exposure, your passive that does a bunch of stuff based on the elements that you use?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the one that gives you bonuses when you use different elements.
Perfect. Okay, so it didn't affect that, but it did work in tandem with Tal Rasha's set, dropping the different meteors.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, usually those two seem to work the same way. Yeah, I mean, I know with weapon procs, initially they were not supposed to get bonuses from elemental damage, and then they changed it, and now I'm pretty sure all the item procs do get bonuses from elemental damage, so... Yeah, I imagine that it does with the gems as well, and looks like chat's saying that it does. So there's at least one viewpoint on it.
Confirmed.
Yeah. So you guys have like any kind of combinations of legendary gems or end game going for those?
Oh, go ahead.
I think at this point, for me, it like changes every day because I'm like, man, this one's really good, but oh, this one's gonna be really good when it's leveled up too. I think that the Bane of the Powerful, which I believe is the one that after you kill an elite pack, you get a 20% bonus to damage for a duration, and the duration is the scaling. I think once that one's leveled up high enough, that's actually going to be probably one of the BIS, just because imagine like, a minute of 20% flat damage, and then also the secondary unlocking, which gives you 15% to elites. So you're going to be burning through the elites that much faster, and then you'll be under the effect of the buff. You're going to clear through all the white trash mobs much faster because of the buff, just to get to your next elite pack before the duration runs out. So I assume at some point you'd be able to keep it almost permanently. And that's... Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, that's actually the second gem that I'm using right now with the Bane of the Trapped. And even when we were going and clearing, taking it slow on Rift 26, it was still, staying up for a pretty decent amount of time. Because, for any of the rare packs, it will only proc when the yellow mob itself dies. So, you get that bonus after the pack is dead and continue on to the next one. And if it's a champion pack, the blue pack, it will proc and, reset itself after every one of them dies. So when the first one dies, you get the 20% damage buff, and you can keep it going for the remainder of that fight. So it actually has a pretty decent uptime, even when you're taking it slow. So I was, just at rank 0, it was still working pretty well for me as, kind of adding on that force multiplier for my damage.
And like Nomad 9 is saying in chat too, it's essentially a passive. Like think of, what is it for Demon Hunters? Steady Aim, I think, is the one where if you're like a certain distance away, you just have like 20% damage increase. So it's that, but without any of the whatchamacallits, the catches.
And one of the other things that people have, kind of referred to the rank 25 bonus as, it's, you equip that and you can kind of double the effectiveness of an SOJ. Because you now get the 20% bonus damage versus elites from the SOJ. You equip that, rank 25, and now you have another 15% damage bonus. So it is really great for that.
Yeah, it seems like elite damage to elite has really gotten buffed and is starting to be one of the the top stats out there.
Yeah,
People are
with
looking at.
with the HP scaling on mobs and the greater rifts as you go higher and higher, it just gets ridiculous. And so you need every little, percentage that you can to kill the elites, because that's what eats up the majority of your time.
Yeah, I mean the Rift Guardian takes up so much time, and bonus to elite damage helps you with that as well. I've been using Simplicity Strike that gives you starting at 25% bonus damage to primary skills, going up to 50% at max level, because most of my damage right now is coming from Magic Missile with Mirror Ball. But I'm super jealous of non-Witch Doctor and Wizards that get to stack that with Depth Diggers, which could have up to 100% damage to your resource generators. And then, you can still get 2 pieces on your gear that give you bonus to your resource generators with pants and belt. So, yeah, anyone but Wizard and Witch Doctor could effectively get 180% bonus damage to their spirit. I mean, it's almost 3 times the damage with your generators. And then if you get, we were talking about the legendary that buffs Punish for Crusaders. There's a lot of other legendaries that buff different generators. I think we're going to see some really strong builds relying around generators.
Yeah, I know that. I've seen one person on my friends list that was farming in Torment 6 on hardcore plays a monk and was actually using that exact combo. I don't know how exactly he's playing his build or anything like that, but yeah, he had combination strike, Depth Diggers in that gym to just have a huge, insane damage bonus by just using his generators. Nice. I think he was using one of the Way of the 100 Fist, probably it was Blazing Fists, and then Quickening for Thunder Fists.
Yeah, that's pretty insane. And then you could use, if you wanted to, the gem that gives you a bonus when you use a spender when you're at max resource, since you don't need to use the resource that much anyway. But I'm looking forward to the Star Pact build for the Wizard that relies on that same rune. If you guys haven't heard the change to Star Pact, it makes it so that it uses all of your arcane power when you cast the Star Pact Meteor, and the additional arcane power just gets turned into bonus damage. And now they have a staff that reduces the cost of Meteor severely, and they have that gem that gives you a 50% bonus to damage if you're at full resource. And yeah, it seems like you get some really crazy crits with Star Pact if you combine them all.
Oh man. Yeah. Well, there you go. Build enabling, right?
Yeah, exactly. So there's so many fun things that just the implementation of these legendary gems has opened up. It's a lot of fun.
And if you look at the UI when you're upgrading them from Urshi at the end of your greater rifts, there's space for so many more. So I'm really excited for seasons to come where they implement even 3 more. It's kind of like in Hearthstone when they they just had their expansion with 30 cards, and 30 cards amongst 100 or 200 plus makes a huge difference, just because you have so many more tech options, like things to make your deck faster, slower. And it's kind of the same thing for Diablo. Like, you have so many options to now, like, oh, my spender is, hey, I just want to do a spender only, or I want to do a generator only build. And the fact that that's now viable is kind of crazy. It's something you wouldn't be able to do without all the support that they're throwing in with the gems and the legendaries combined. So it's so exciting.
Yep.
Yeah, it's gonna be really fun to see the seasons progress.
One mention while we're on the topic of legendary gems, I think it is worth noting that there is a potentially, threatening bug out there. Yes. With the Moratorium gem, which I mentioned last week as being nice because it's like a survivability buff. It's I believe it's like the only survivability increase or like toughness increase from all of the gems. It makes it so that way 20% of all the damage that you take is then staggered out over 3 seconds. And as you level it up, it increases that stagger duration. So, it kind of reduces it reduces the burst of your incoming damage. So it better increases your armor and particularly like your life per second. It really leverages that in helping your character survive. But there is a problem that seems to have occurred that now, if you have a life-saving passive, such as near-death experience, awareness, or one of the sets that give you that ability, such as the Shadow set for Demon Hunters. If you die while the Moratorium is equipped, the ticks from the damage, or the dot, are not cleared. So it basically, before your effect that restores your health comes into play, you die. Because it ticks through immunities. You can pop Serenity or any of those other effects, and it will actually continue to tick on you while you're immune to all damage. And so the kind of like that little stop system that they have built in, where you're immune to all damage for half a second while it refills your health before you're actually dead, it still ticks for the damage. And so you actually do die, and your passive or your set bonus never comes into effect. So it's one of those ones where it's had quite a few people have died, particularly hardcore characters, and is completely negating the fact that you're using one of these cheat death passives. And we've actually had Minerva, who we actually did some runs with the other day, a friend of hers, Annihilator. They died, and they were wearing the two-piece shadow set as well as awareness. So they had 2 cheat death passives, and they just died because they're using the Moratorium when they kind of discovered all the other people that are complaining about it on the internet. So if you're using them, particularly if you're hardcore, if you're softcore, don't use Moratorium with a cheat death passive. You swap that cheat death passive out for another survivability or even just a damage increase. And if you're playing hardcore, just don't use Moratorium.
Yeah, and a word to the wise to any new hardcore players. Even if you lose your character because of a glitch or something that's Blizzard's fault, it doesn't matter how hard you QQ, Blizzard's not going to give you your character back.
Unfortunately.
It's just unrealistic for them to go through them all and assess which ones are legit, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Very true.
Let's see, was there anything else we wanted to cover before moving on into feedback?
Well, I think that I covered up pretty much the majority of our experiences so far. I guess, is there anything else that you'd like to add? Like any future goals that you might have, or anything that you still hope to accomplish within the seasons themselves?
Personally, I'm just excited to get Firebirds, and then I'm hoping I can find some new goals once I get 6-piece Firebird. We'll be pretty much complete at that point.
Yeah, I think a lot of goals are definitely going to focus around completing your set, and then trying to get the legendary gems to very high levels and seeing how that then modifies your build, because those are pretty much the 2 key cruxes to how you're going to be able to climb the greater rifts. So yeah, pretty much the same for me. I have now the entire 6-piece of cons, but a lot of the pieces just aren't optimal to switch over from the Roland set, which I'm using the 4-piece of right now. So I have to keep, hopefully cadaling some pieces up or finding them in the real world. And then once I get that, that's just gonna open up, like, so again, because that set is just so good for Crusaders, because it opens up builds. It doesn't just like say, okay, you can use this build now. You can use so many other builds with it. So I'm really excited to get that going. And then of course, get, like Nineball was saying, just get our conquest on.
Mm-hmm. Pretty much, yeah, that was it. I think we talked a lot about what we wanted to accomplish earlier in the stream, so we'll save you all the recap.
All right. Well, let's move on to items of the week. Keep in mind, if you guys get any really sexy items or funny items or horrible items that you think would be fun to show on the show, please send them in along with feedback. Everything can be sent to the same email address Nineball mentioned earlier, which is westmarchworkshop@blizzpro.com. On to the images. Let's go ahead and start off with LG, who's been playing a lot. We know because he sent us in the screenshots to prove it. And
he's sent in quite a bit, and he's got some accomplishments. He's got some conquests under his belt as well.
Yeah, I guess before I even talk about this 3,900 damage Daibo he sent in,
I just want to say something real quick while we're getting into the items. I'm actually going to step away for just a couple minutes, but I'll be right back. Okay?
Do it. Yeah. Anyways, he was the first monk to kill Mathael and Uber Diablo on Tier 6 on Torment 6 rather, on normal seasons on softcore. And yeah, he's been playing hardcore, killing leaderboards, found 3,900 Daibo. It has attack speed and damage on it, and you can see the damage and attack speed are actually kind of low end, so could probably get that thing up close to 4,000.
Which is insane, man. That two-hander buff, I think they really nailed it in terms of like making it still comparable to one-handers. I haven't really seen people decide, two-handers are better now or one-handers are better, but the two-hand builds they feel so much better now.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, especially right when you hit 70, two-handers are really sexy.
Absolutely.
And he also got these Lukuni Prowlers, which rolled pretty well, and overall just a nice item. Could have gotten some better fire damage on there. That's at the low end, but yeah, all the other rolls are pretty high. 6 crit, 5 attack speed, 458 vit, 479 dex. It's
pretty sexy.
Yeah. Let's see. Robert sent in some depth diggers, and he's actually using the combo we were talking about earlier, because he's also using Simplicity Strike in his ring, which increases primary skills by 25%, and fully upgraded at 50. And his depth diggers rolled really nice. They're at 98% bonus damage from primary skills. And I can't remember. Let's see if we could see which primary skill he's using right now. He's on a barb, and I'm not doing a very good job here. Is he using Frenzy? Yeah, looks like it.
I got the stream delay, so I can't even see it.
Yeah, I'm the barb noob, so I have to try to remember the icons as well as I can. But it looks like he's tearing it up with Frenzy.
That would make sense too with Simplicity Strike. Yeah, because you get the attack speed stats.
Yeah. Well, Demon Barbie, which by the way is a great name, found this Shard of Hate and was very excited about it. It unfortunately didn't roll great damage, only 1,900 damage. But was just very excited to get a Shard of Hate, and cool to have one this early in the seasons.
Definitely.
Now, a few times on the show we've had Battle of the Gnat Slayers, and so we're having it again. We got 2 Gnat Slayers sent in this week. First one was sent in by Lewis. It's pretty nice. Has almost 2,800 damage, 749 dex right at the top end there. Sockets on there, and it's looking good. 9 maximum discipline as a secondary. And so, yeah, so we need your help in chat. Let us know which one's better. This one, or this one we got from Grumble Funk, which is a little bit higher damage, 2794, 1 less dexterity, 2 more discipline. I think I know the winner here, but you guys both got some really close Gnats Slayers right around the top end there.
Which one are you going with?
Yeah, I think we got to go Grumble.
Going with Grumble.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, Lewis has 1 dex on Grumble, but everything else is better on Grumble's Gnats.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. And also, if you even look at the secondary, he gets 1.9% chance to stun, too. Which, I mean, it's 2%, right? So, like, whatever. But just those rare instances where you get a nice stun off. Hey.
Yeah, I think it definitely beats 177 experience from monster kills.
I would agree.
I have another picture here, but we gotta save it for 9 ball to get back, so we're gonna skip one. Grumble Funk has been praying to RNGesus with 9 ball because his luck has been ridiculous on the seasons. Let me show you first these Mage Fists. He had max fire skill damage, 20%, decent int, 7% attack speed, 48 crit damage, 10 crit chance, very close to perfect Mage Fists. Super jelly there. Would love to have those on my mage as I'm collecting my Firebird set.
Well, there's a little, if you want, just to go back to the Gnat Slayer battle, there's actually a couple of valid points in chat that Lewis hadn't rolled anything, hadn't enchanted anything on his. So Ramalani's could make the playing field completely unfair.
That's true. Yeah, it's too late for Grumble to Ramalandi.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, okay, well, Lewis, if you re-enchant that, we'll give you a chance to beat Grumble Funk, I think. That's a good call. All right. Well, yeah. Not only did Grumblefunk get these awesome Mage Fists, he also got this insane Unity, which has
Oh,
one away from max Dex, 499, one away from max crit damage, 49, max crit chance, only 13% damage against elites, but still.
but that's out of 15 too,
Yeah.
as the max, so still not even that bad.
Yeah, doing really great there. And Unity is one of those items that you just really want to get two of if you're going to be soloing at all. It's possibly the strongest item you can get because as it splits damage between all wears of the item, if you have one on your follower and one on you, and you get the legendary that makes it so your follower doesn't take any damage, then it effectively just cuts all the damage you take in half.
Seriously.
So,
yeah, and
it's
it's kind of amazing simply because imagine like, your budget for toughness or your budget for damage or whatever. It just completely throws those numbers out of the window. You can go ahead and just lose like tons of toughness, like all res, don't care about it. And just bump up your DPS because you're going to be able to circumvent a lot of damage with that combo there. And I want to say it instantly bumps you up to another torment as soon as you can rearrange your gear a little bit.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I mean, if you're at, if you need 10 million toughness to play on Torment 3 or wherever you're at, and you have 2 Unities on now, you can safely drop down to 5 million toughness, which is, yeah, obviously a lot of stats you could reroll, a lot of gear you could replace. I mean, I guess your only trouble at that point is when you play in groups, now you're going to have to rearrange your gear again to make sure you have that toughness that you were getting from the Unity.
You almost need like a secondary set for groups and then one for solo.
Yeah. Well, now that Nineball's back, we can go with Grumblefunk's last image, which is actually not a D3 item, but a Juno Reactor record.
Yes. Yes!
So, Nineball, big Juno Reactor fan, maybe could tell us a little bit about this record.
Yep, this one here is, let me pull it back up. Sorry, I'm having to catch up here, having to go back and find that email. Where was it?
This was sent in to us because Nineball has talked about Juno Reactor on the show quite a bit.
Yeah, they're one of my all-time favorite bands, and he actually does DJing part-time, and so he's got a couple of vinyls, and one of them there, and before I even read the email and I just saw the picture, and I was like, oh my gosh, it's Conga Fury on an LP. That is so amazing. And he goes in, to talk about how like this is a rarity, because it was a huge hit because it was featured in the little CG animation that was done as the promo for The Matrix Reloaded and was on the soundtrack, as Juno Reactor was heavily involved in the soundtrack for the Matrix series. And that one, just got a huge popularity, even though it had been out well before then. It's one of their best known songs, and it was also in what was it? The Mortal Kombat Annihilation. Not as acclaimed of a movie for very good reason, but yeah, it's popped up in quite a few different movies. It's a really nice track, something that you should definitely go through and look up. It's a wonderful, wonderful track by a wonderful, wonderful group.
Nice. So yeah, thanks for sending that in. I think now it is time to go on to our emails this week. And it was nice. We actually started getting a good amount of emails again. We were in a bit of a lull, but I think 2.1 has gotten people excited once again. Yeah, and we've actually already gotten 2 emails during the show today. I don't know if we're going to be able to get to them. One's an item of the week, so we'll probably have to save that for next week. But thank you guys for your excitement.
Absolutely. I can take the first one if you guys want.
Sure, go for it.
It's actually one of the oldest ones that we got for the week, which is awesome. So this is from Ty Bud, who writes in pretty often, I believe, right?
Yeah, he's written it a few times.
And oh yeah, I remember Ty Bud. I actually read his last time because he has the best greeting ever. He goes, "Hey fellas, this is not to be confused with plus elemental damage affixes." And then he gives us an example weapon, which is a Cinder Switch, and I think it has like +% fire. Checking it. Yes, sure. All right. So, oh no, actually, okay, sorry. I'm going to start that over. It has fire as its elemental damage on the weapon, but it doesn't do like +% of fire damage or anything like that. He says, as you can see, it's pure fire damage weapon. My question is, does this help amplify fire damage skills? Also, what is the effect of the weapon's fire damage on a skill that uses a rune that does weapon damage as lightning? Lastly, basically all this information is needed to try to understand the Crusader passive Holy Cause. If I used a weapon that was holy damage, would I get a constant beneficial heal effect, or does it not matter and it just depends on the skill damage used? And I took this question because Holy Cause is here, and this is a Crusader passive, and it's awesome. For people that aren't in the know on that passive, it's a 10% increase to all damage, just flat, like no elemental tie-ins there. But what it also gives you is 1% healing of your max life. So if you have 500,000 life, oh god, we're doing math on stream, 1% would be 5,000. So you'd be healing for 5,000 every time you use a holy skill. And that answers the question. The elemental damage type on your weapon does nothing. It's just for pretty effects, except for cold, which actually gives you a slow. And this is something that they've debated, the devs have back and forth. I think at one point in beta of the original Diablo 3, weapon damage, or sorry, the elemental weapon damage actually did stuff. Like fire was supposed to explode things, I think. Poison was a dot, lightning was stun, and they kind of have worked those more into the runes themselves. And I think if anyone else wants to jump in, I'm thinking that's pretty much it. So yeah, if you use, like for instance, on your Crusader, if you're using Smite, which I think all the runes for that are holy, except for maybe the last one, or any holy skill, you're going to benefit from Holy Cause, even if your weapon is like a Thunder Fury, which has thunder on it.
Yeah, but there are some things like elemental exposure, where because your weapon has a certain elemental type, it'll still count as the enemy getting hit by that elemental type, even if the skill wasn't that elemental type.
Didn't they just change that?
You know what? If they did, this would be the second time that I was wrong about elemental exposure, so it seems pretty fitting.
I want to say I remember Jake saying something about that in the 2.1. They changed that so that way the damage effect on your weapon no longer procs an additional stack of the elemental exposure.
Well, there you go. So the elemental type of your weapon really doesn't matter. Don't even look at it.
Yep. I'll go ahead and grab the next one, which is actually our second oldest email that we had. This is from Oculias. I don't know. Childs. But he wanted to submit an idea for a new rune for sentries. How about a rune for your sentries where your companions get behind the sentries and start firing from them? I can just picture ferrets firing gun turrets at the enemies. I think someone just saw Guardians of the Galaxy and wants to recreate that in Diablo, and I am 100% for that. Just imagine all of a sudden, like your wolf, your boar, the freaking spider getting up behind the turrets and just going through and shooting at people.
I think this probably is a response to our joke we made last week about sentries that would shoot ferrets.
Yeah.
I think this is an awesome idea. The biggest problem, if we were going to speak realistically, of course, would be the animation budget.
True.
Pretty much. And chat is saying that I am wrong and that elemental type still counts towards elemental exposure.
All right. Okay. So
Archon was right.
For once, what a surprise! You guys.
But is it really a surprise because I was wrong?
Well, so yeah, it looks like every once in a while the elemental type on a weapon matters, but for the most part, it's pretty negligible. All right, I'm gonna grab this one from Power Axes. Is his in-game name? He's part of the Blitz Pro clan, and he said, "I know that everyone is hot and bothered over the vault. As you can tell from this episode, we were. I was happy when I got one at a Paragon 61, but the best part was getting Boon of the Hoarder Gem. Now a single rift has a yield of almost 1 million gold at T1 and has changed my strategy. I had started avoiding greater rifts because the lower amount of gold I had and was getting, but now all bets are off. Would like to hear your thoughts on this little beauty." So hopefully we covered that for the most part. But yeah, I guess that is one advantage of regular rifts over greater rifts, is you can get treasure goblins, so you have a chance to get the vault.
Not in a rift.
You can't get the vault in the rift.
No,
Yeah.
so treasure goblins don't spawn in greater rifts at all, and
Yeah.
treasure goblins do spawn in rifts, but you can't get the vault in rifts.
Oh, there you go.
So it actually gives, not legitimacy, but it gives you another purpose towards running bounties. Because I know a lot of people are like, oh god, I have to do bounties as the gateway to rifts. But at least as you're doing them, if you're running some treasure goblins, you can, start to rub your hands together like, this could be the vault.
Yeah, very nice.
Indeed. All right, I suppose I will grab the next one. This is from Daryl Perry, and he says, I know, and this is actually in reference to a question that we got last week for some of you guys who were here or listening now in iTunes and Stitcher. He says, I know one of your most frequent questions is how much damage/toughness do I need for the next difficulty? Well, I'm about to put in my 2 cents on the damage part of that question. You have enough when you can smoke a treasure goblin before or maybe just after he opens his first escape portal. My reason why is if you can't, then at the next level you may not make the kill, and who really wants to miss a chance at Greed's Realm? So it kind of just ties in what we were just talking about too. And then he also goes on to say, Westmarch Workshop now 33.3% improved, one for all and all for one. Thank you for the ego strip.
I would argue 50% improved. Unless he's dissing you there and there's some math insults that were, because we got 50% more people.
It depends on what angle you look at it. Where you're coming at it from with math.
Such mess.
I suppose
If you're looking at it backwards, then it's 33.
We're Diablo people. You got to get the math right, or it's gonna.
Exactly.
It's true. Let me theory craft this.
Let me go and refer back to the line character sheet. That good old LCS.
There you go. So this is one of the things that is kind of a good. I think people used to do this actually back when it was monster power. Was if you couldn't kill the goblin on that monster power. Well, people used to say it a lot more meanly, but they were like, you shouldn't be in that monster power. You suck. You can't even kill the goblin, etc. But it kind of is a good measure of your DPS at least, because obviously goblins don't attack you and they run. So you need to be able to, DPS them down quickly, and also it's not even about might say this wrong, your effective DPS, because I'm messing it up. I'm sorry. But yeah, so basically they're on the run. You need to be able to kill them while moving, so that means you're not constantly DPSing. So it's a good measure of, pretty much your raw output of damage. And I would say too, if you're failing the cursed chest, if you can't get the second chest, like kill the 100 mobs in under the minute or however long it gives you, I think that's also a good measure too of maybe you're in a torment that's maybe too difficult.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's a much better guideline than what a lot of people are asking for is a straight number on their character sheet to go by. But yeah, like you said, the character sheet isn't nearly as important, and yeah, those both seem like really good tests.
And then there's just way too much variance, not only just between class and skill selection, but now items. A single item can make or break your capability of doing like Torment 1 or Torment 2. So there's a lot of different things. Someone might be able to go through and hop right into Torment with only 2 million toughness, but you go through and you look at their character and they might have the Crim's bracers and a string of ears. They have a huge amount of passive damage resistance. That's not really, that might be effectively reflected in their toughness, even though the reduced melee damage is reflected in your toughness for the string of ears, but like that high of a number isn't like really accurately reflected in how little damage you're really taking.
Yeah. Well, looks like I guess Nineball's turn, right?
Yeah, I'll go through. I'll take this one comes from Dracio. He actually submitted a Demon Hunter question. It's hey guys, my nickname in game is Holzalist. Why do I always get the ones with
I love it. I love it.
I hate this.
Please keep sending hard words for Nineball to pronounce and address your emails to him.
Please do. He's from Brazil and he's a huge fan, and he'd like to know what our opinions are about the Demon Hunter skill Fan of Knives, particularly the rune Knives Expert. Before patch 2.1, the damage was physical and it just had a 30 hatred cost. Now in patch 2.1, they changed the damage to fire and added an internal cooldown of 1 second. Although there wasn't anything that said that they added an internal cooldown to it, and their demon hunters are now complaining because it changed what was a almost OP skill into a OK skill. And probably the reason why you're not seeing anything about this is mainly because what they did is that only had no cooldown if you put it on the left click mouse button. If you had Fan of Knives, Knives Expert on any other key on your keyboard, it would have a 1 second internal cooldown. What they changed is you can no longer left click it. It's no longer a skill that can be assigned to the left click mouse button, so you're basically forced into using it as one of the other skills with the 1 second cooldown. It's not so much a bug as a bug fix. It was never intended, and so that was allowing it to do a ridiculously increased damage because you could just spam it infinitely. It had no cooldown. Like any other skill had like some sort of attack animation which would limit how quickly you could use it, and you wanted to stack attack speed to make it faster. But with Knife Expert, it literally was as fast as you could click that mouse, it would cast the spell that many times. And so you had a lot of people that were building these really, really focused gear sets with tons of cost reduction combined with like the Pride's Fall helm, to where you could almost spend an infinite amount of time in Shadow Power and just infinitely spam Knives Expert. And you would do insane amounts of damage. But yeah, they kind of went and they addressed that, and they just removed it so that way now it functions as it should. So unfortunately, it's kind of killed that particular build, but it was one of those ones that was really, really gimmicky, had a really targeted set that you had to build in order to actually make effective use of it, and it just was not. I guess it was something that they deemed game breaking and decided to kind of nip it in the bud.
Oh, interesting. Well, this last one's somewhat directed at me from Blue Phoenix. He, pardon my French, just quoting him. He said, "How much ape shit," I believe that's French, "would Archon throw if he had just completed a Greater Rift, went to upgrade his key, was about to click upgrade, and surprise, 3007, which of course is the error when your game crashes, time to start over." And he asked because what he says is it happened to him last night, and he went ape. Haha. Yeah, I think I'd be pretty upset about that. I mean, depending on what Greater Rift I was at, but yeah, I have thought about that. That if for some reason your game crashes before you upgrade, or even if you just accidentally leave the game, forget to upgrade, you're gonna losing your key. So gotta be careful with that. And then he said, back on topic, initial impressions on endgame use for the new teleport wand, which of course is the Aether Walker I was talking about earlier. It's so efficient, but a DPS loss compared to your Serpent Sparker or Wand of Woe, which I really want a Serpent Sparker. So teleport, much efficiency, Wand of Woe, thoughts from Blue Phoenix. Sent from my Android iPhone on T-Mobile, the first nationwide G network. They got you advertising right in there. Anyways. I think that it's a really good question. I think for low levels, especially doing bounties, Aether Walker is always going to be the best thing. I think if you're clearing through low level rifts, or you're just running to the end on bounties, you just can't beat that kind of mobility. But if you're spending most of your time fighting mobs, like especially on the higher difficulties in rifts, then yeah, I think other wands, Wand of Woe especially, are probably going to beat out the Aether Walker. But we'll see. I mean, the great thing about the Greater Rifts is we can track, who's getting to the highest rift. We can see what kind of gear they're using. It's going to be a lot easier to test stuff like this in the seasons.
Mm-hmm. We mentioned this a couple times, in the past episodes, but I just really want to go back and say it again. It's just really nice having these, the Greater Rifts in this kind of leaderboard system, because you can see what works, what doesn't.
Yeah, yeah, and the devs kind of said that was a big part of the Greater Rifts, was being able to test the class balance specifically. But yeah, Seasons is just gonna be like having another testing pool the same way the consoles have been, I think, and good things. We should get testing done a lot quicker.
Yeah, I'm really excited for it too, because even not only are we looking at class or wow, cross class comparisons, so they can say like, oh god, the DH is overpowered, nerf stick incoming, but hopefully not. But also within each class too, you can look and say like, all right, which set is underperforming, and what can we do to either buff it or buff skills with it, or introduce a brand new set that'll mix things up. So you're kind of seeing not only which class is also going to be the best, but how they're doing it too, and like the variations. I just seasons, leaderboards, love it all. I'm done. AFK.
Nice. Well, I think this would be the time for final words before we wrap up the show. That was the end of our feedback.
Yeah. I guess since no one else is stepping up, I guess I'll go on. I'm definitely. This is probably one of the best experiences that I've had in Diablo. Even like counting the high time of Diablo 2. This has just been an amazing weekend for going through and playing Diablo. It really feels like they've buffed the drop rate on items, with the patch, because you're just finding legendaries and set pieces left and right. Kadala is actually just throwing gear at you. It's been ridiculous.
I've literally sorry.
It's just been amazing, and not even counting that, and being able to go through and complete, full set and such, just that kind of competitive edge pushing you along to want to go through and just aim higher, do better has been like kind of like one of those like little missing things. So I've always enjoyed the game, but this has just been that little edge that's taken it to like the next level, and it is amazing. I'm definitely riding the high. I can't wait to hopefully go through and conquer a couple more conquests, and we'll look and see where we're at next week.
Nice. Yeah, I can say even though I haven't had 9 balls RNG, I've actually spent over 2,000 blood shards on gloves now, and just got my first pair of legendary gloves from blood shards. So Kadala doesn't love me as much. I guess I need to gain favor with her. But no, I totally agree. I don't think I've been this addicted to Diablo 3 probably ever, but it feels a lot like a second release of Reaper of Souls. I was looking forward to Seasons, but I'm enjoying them even more than I thought I would.
Amen. Go ahead.
There's one more thing I want to add, but by all means.
All right, but yeah, I was just going to piggyback off Archon and say, yeah, like I was so looking forward to Seasons just because competitive elements, the fresh restart, which is something I've always loved, leveling up new characters. So, the ability to do it from nothing again, like, delete your account, start all over, just is, I don't know, I was really excited for it. But Seasons have even surpassed the excitement that I initially set aside for it. So I'm pumped. And even thinking of it too, because like I have this experience, of dying. Like that early on, I'm like, we bum rushed the game and we got good gear and it's all gone. And I remember climbing into bed after it was done. What I did was I made my next Crusader, logged it in, made sure everything was, I had the Paragon left over, etc. And I just went to sleep. And I woke up and I was still hungry to play. And normally what happens when I do lose a character, I'll take like a break from Diablo. I'm just like, I can't deal with it. Like I gotta, take in the loss and figure out why this happened to us and make sure it doesn't happen again, which it always does anyways. But just the excitement, like both of you have said, the addiction is so real with 2.1 now. It really does feel like we've gotten the whole experience of Reaper of Souls, and I just can't wait to play. Like I'm ready. Let's keep going.
Mm-hmm.
All right, yeah, I'm excited to see how this progresses. A month down the road, I hope we still have the same excitement for it. Oh, sorry, Nineball, you wanted to add something.
Yeah, just wanted to say one other experience, and I think Steven and I talked about this, and we said we would forget to talk about it on the show. But when we were playing with Minerva the other day, we decided to we all were comfortable with farming tier 2, and we decided to kick it up to tier 3 or Torment 3.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then we had that amazing Rift boss.
Oh
yeah,
my my goodness.
So we went through. We spawned the Rift boss in the middle of 6 elite packs. And this was probably one of the most intense 10 minutes of Diablo I've ever played, because you're on the edge of your seat as you're walking around. They've got the goatmen that make everything immune. You have mallet lords running around. You've got the big mauler goatmen with Avenger just getting huge with everything that dies and increasing their damage substantially. Arcane orbs flying out everywhere. Poison, toxins, everything. Waller is just insane. Everything that's going on the screen. While at the same time, you've got the Rift boss just floating around, dropping meteors on everybody. And it's just like 10 minutes of this intense concentration. This was before I had the Marauder 6-piece, so it's actually having to try. It was intense, going through and having to do all this, because it's a positioning. There's really nowhere to run, and it just was like, after we finally killed everything, it was like, oh, I've beaten the game.
Right.
I just beat the game.
Uber Diablo what?
Exactly. I had the adrenaline was just so high, because one misstep and you were dead.
Absolutely.
It literally was, you were dead, and we all managed to live through it somehow without proccing a single cheat death passive. And it was just it was amazing. That's an experience that's going to stay with me for a while. I wish I had I was streaming or something so I could have recorded it.
Yeah. Well, I think with that awesome story, it brings episode 22 of Westmarch Workshop to a close. So thank you guys for tuning in. I think you can expect some more exciting episodes. As you can hear, we're very addicted to seasons, and if you haven't given it a shot, we hope you do. If you haven't given a hardcore shot, we hope you do too. We're all advocates of that now.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want to catch Westmarch Workshop live, we usually do it on Wednesdays at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. It's streamed on twitch.tv/Archon the Wizard. Come chat along with us. We also have a pre-show and after-show you can hang out for. And you can catch us on iTunes, Stitcher, and YouTube, which usually a day or two afterwards that those will be up. Thanks for hanging out. Please send us your feedback, westmarchworkshop@blizzpro.com. Until next week. See you guys later.
Bye, everybody.
Adios.